What's up everyone and welcome back to the Hang Time Live, the moto show with a difference. This is our 5th episode here and we've changed up the lineup a little bit today. Neil Prince, who's one of our usual co-hosts, is out in Belgium doing his day job with the RFX Par Racing Husqvarna team. Is that right? There's something along those lines. Neil's out in Belgium with Geddy Bobashev, Joel Rizzi, Josh Gilbert, getting ready for the season that's starting up again in a couple of weeks. So to replace Neil this week, we've got Roland Shaw from Hardcore Racing. He's our resident two-stroke expert, so we're going to have a special two-stroke episode here today. We've also got Nev Bradshaw. You know him, you love him. He's the two-stroke hero here on this channel. How's it going, boys?
Very good, very good.
Yeah.
What's going on in life, Nev?
Not much, just been working back with coaching now. Seems to be picking up. All the tracks are opening back up to normal practicing and stuff now, so I've been busy with that. Then training a bit, still cycling and running and riding, trying to ride at least twice a week. So yeah, been pretty hectic. I got my nephew over from the Isle of Wight, he's here. He's doing that rocket, yeah. He's chilling, watching how the big dogs play. Casey. So we're doing that, and he's doing the rocket till sundown, so he's come to spend a week.
Okay.
So when I'm working, he can ride, and then the days I'm not working, I'll go riding with him. So yeah, just been doing that, trying to keep busy, obviously with the kids and stuff. Full-time job right there.
Yeah. How about you, Roland? What's going on in life? Keeping busy in these strange times?
Yeah, very much so. We've got the new website we're building at the minute, so that's taking up a fair amount of my time. But workshops building back up, engine tuning, dynoing, all that sort of stuff's going on. Parts, really strong on parts at the moment. Really happy with the way the business is. Nice thing for me at the moment is that the changes starting to get to the track a little bit. You know, my passion is the sport, and it's good to get back out on circuit. And have a break out the office.
Yeah, so I must say, if you recognise Roland, he has been on the channel before. He's been our two-stroke magician in the past. He built my bike that you've seen in some videos before. He's been helping Nev with his bike. We actually filmed the video last week, the three of us, so we'll give you a sneak peek of that a little bit later on in the video. But what have we got coming up in this episode? Well, as you've seen by the title, I can see some people in the chat already, maybe having a debate to start. We're going to go for a Moto Fight, so we're going to debate the great debate, actually. 2 strokes versus 4 strokes. We're going to decide once and for all the winner of that competition, that contest. The eternal war in motocross for the last 20-odd years. So we're going to decide a winner right here tonight. We're going to get some 2-stroke tech tips from the boys. Obviously, they're experts in that game. So send us your questions, your tech questions, your setup questions, and Roland and Nev will help you answer them. We're going to talk about some news, and we're going to finish up with Beleivabull. We're not going to do a Dirt Brains this week because Roland was a bit scared that he didn't know his knowledge. Yeah, and to be fair, Nev's a formidable foe in that arena.
What happens when you beat them too many times? They don't want to come back on the show.
Where's Princey? Where's Princey gone? He's not really in Belgium, is he?
He took it to heart, I think.
He's at Market Harbour, hiding at home.
He's a broken man.
That's where he is. Anyway, so
he'll have to come back and redeem himself.
Yeah, he's revising. That's what he's not working. He's revising. Before we jump into the first segment, then I've just got to say a big congratulations to the winners of the merch competition that we've been running for the last three episodes. Like we say every week, send us your questions, your comments, and we pick a best comment at the end of the show to win some merch from our merch store, some 2-stroke merch. So the winners we've had so far, we've had Toby, we've had Joel, and we've had Jake. So big congrats to those guys. I hope you enjoy your merch. And as always, comment below, give us your questions and your comments, and at the end of the show, we'll pick another winner for this week. So let's jump into the first segment of tonight's show. That's Moto Fights. Right, so we're back then. I've just got distracted there by I Love Burgers over there. So I'm his nephew. Let's just maybe laugh. His YouTube name. Anyway, so Moto Fights. Today we're going to be debating the great debate of motocross: 2 strokes versus 4 strokes. We're going to have a guy on team 2 strokes and a guy on team 4 strokes. And they're going to try and convince me and you guys watching at home which is the best. So, who was team 2 stroke and who was team 4 stroke?
I'm being stitched up being team 4 stroke.
So Roland is team 4 stroke, which means Nev, you're team 2 stroke.
Team 2 stroke for the boys.
So basically, you've got to try and convince me why a 2 stroke is better and why 4 stroke is better. Whatever avenue you want to go down to try and convince me why, Who wants to go first? Who wants to lead the charge?
You go first, Roland.
Go on, Roland. Why are four strokes the way to go?
The four strokes are the way to go because most of the development from the factories has been done on four strokes as far as the latest chassis design and so forth. So that's been invested in the four strokes, and they are easy to ride.
So do you reckon the average rider would be quicker on a four-stroke than on a two-stroke?
I would say that the
easier to
average
ride.
rider would be faster on a 254 stroke than he would be on a 125 two-stroke.
What are you going to say to that, Nev?
Yeah.
What are you going to say to that?
I'll say, the two-stroke thing is something I enjoy. It's something I've always enjoyed, something I grew up doing. And, as a bike, for the average person, to throw 125 or 250 two-stroke around is a lot easier. The bike's a lot. There's less chance of crashing with the no engine braking. Kind of when people are getting hard-sided on jumps and stuff now, the guys are a little bit, inexperienced. That's normally because the bike will kick one way, then the engine braking stops it and they get hard-sided, where the two-stroke, it hasn't got that engine braking feel to it. When the bikes blow up, $200-300 and you're back on the road again, you buy a 450 or a 250F, you blow it up, you're not riding for 3 or 4 months,
Yeah.
So the two-stroke's a lot easier to keep going. And then just the fun factor, because they're so light and they're so easy to maneuver, the sound of them, I think, unless I had a really good deal to ride 450s, I would never go buy a 450 myself and go ride a 450. I'd rather go race a 125 round. I don't care, if I'm 2 or 3 seconds slower than what I should be. It's the fun you have while you're doing it, And just, I think also for kids learning, there was 2 really quick kids at the track I was coaching at today, Bobby Bruce and Alfie Jones. And this is their second year on 125s, and those kids are flying. They're learning to get the best out of a motorcycle. They're learning to carry momentum, corner speed, get everything perfect so that they're not losing time. So when they take it on, when they progress and they go into the four-stroke, those guys have, a lot of kids don't gain that year or two now. They go straight to the 450 or straight to the four-stroke, sorry. And I feel for sure you're going to go quicker on it, but you're not learning those fundamental skills that you would learn how to get the best out of a motorcycle. So for two-strokes for me, more fun, cheaper to run, and it seems like it's getting more and more popular. I'm at a track pretty much most days of my life, and dude, it went away for a long time, and it seems like the last 18 months, 2-3 years is, it's probably 50-50 at the minute, when you go to a track. So it's definitely coming back.
Let me ask you this question, Roland. Obviously, racing-wise, at the top level, past youth racing, four strokes, it's only four strokes. Why did the industry go that way? If, we're saying, Nev's saying, the two strokes are more fun to ride, not as costly and all of that. Why did the industry go four strokes?
I think there's potentially two answers to that. The first one being that when you're buying in mass production, you're buying in massive parts of valves and things like that. They can really get the four-stroke parts very, very cheap. And there is a perceived higher value for those four-stroke parts, as Nev has hinted there, that if you do manage to grenade a four-stroke, the potential is going to cost you 3, 4, even 5 times that it would cost to repair a two-stroke. So from a manufacturer's point of view, there's a lot more margin. So the perceived value of the parts is higher, and because they're buying massive numbers of those types for all of their street bike models that are sold all over the world, they're paying, I think most people would be quite astonished at what they're actually paying for some of the parts. But so you've got that first. So there's a big financial incentive for the motorcycle manufacturers. If the sport can stand it and people will run with it, then to have everybody on a four-stroke. So they don't make much money out of the sale of the bikes. It's all in the after sales of clothing, accessories, parts, spare parts and things like that. It's not so straightforward for aftermarket people to make a lot of the parts that they do make. You can pretty much build a two-stroke now from parts without actually buying very much from in a Yamaha or a Honda or a KTM packet. It doesn't. You can buy all those aftermarket, but not so much with the four strokes. That's one side of it. The other thing is that there is I don't actually agree with the with what is actually sort of perceived or believed, that two strokes are dirty, what comes out the exhaust pipe is really bad and so forth. But you do have emission laws at certain places, and the sport is asked to clean up its act. along with all other motorsports. And as such, you'll find, particularly in the States and with California being the largest sale, probably 90% of motocross bikes these days or off-road machinery is sold in California. There are emission laws and that sort of thing. So from that point of view, everybody's looking towards what looks like it's coming out the back end of an exhaust pipe as being the most environmentally friendly. So the perception is that a two-stroke is not as environmentally friendly as a four-stroke. And so that's why they've gone down that route.
Spread the premix.
Yeah, exactly. I'm struggling to fight for the four-stroke here, but I will do my best. So
I have to say the chat is heavily siding with the two-strokes, but that's expected on this channel for sure. For sure.
Really? Wow.
You made a convincing argument, obviously, now.
Must be a politician. Yeah.
So, what do you think the sport would ever go back to two-strokes? I heard you guys talking the other day. Obviously, Nev, you've been saying that you've seen more two-strokes at the track, say for hobby riders, but I think at the top level it will ever go back.
Not at the top level, like in motocross, maybe enduro and stuff, where especially with the trials riding and stuff that these guys do, like in special extreme enduros and stuff, possibly. So, but like the Japanese manufacturers will never go back to making two-strokes again. I wouldn't say, like Honda, Suzuki. Like I don't see them ever developing. It's gone away from that already. I think the chances of them coming back to that era again is quite slim. But look at KTM's range. They've still got a lot of two-strokes.
Still cracking on with the two-strokes. It's actually quite interesting. Obviously, Yamaha were the brand that really pushed forward with the four-stroke idea. But they're now the only Japanese manufacturer still making two-strokes. I just thought that was quite interesting.
But it hasn't developed in the last, since 2005, 15 years.
They've not made any massive strides as far as the 125 and the 252 stroke since 05. There's been a little bit of cosmetic change. There's been some suspension change. There's been the odd little bit involved inside the engine for a point of reliability. When you see something that could be better, they've made it better, but they haven't fundamentally changed the performance of the machine out the box since 2005. I think the other thing to mention, I think you're quite correct in that people are looking to other things, looking to electric and so forth.
Yeah, do you think we've got more chance of seeing MXGP being electric than MXGP being two-stroke in the next 10 years?
Sadly, I think you're perhaps right there. But the other thing is that Yamaha, I believe, and this is me saying something that I've heard, I think that they're actually committed to 2026 on producing two-strokes. So as much as they're not they're not bailing out of it just yet.
Yeah, well, there's still a decent market there, isn't there? Obviously, YZ125 is hard to get hold of at the moment.
There's a big
sold out. Yeah.
There's a big depth in motocross riding. Like at the level. If you're at British Championship level or you World Championship level, AMA level, Supercross level, that's never going to go back two-stroke. But there's a big gap between that and your average club racer in England. And I think that's still quite strong. The core there, especially the kids moving from 85s onto 125s, obviously there's still a big market there and stuff. But
I think that, like you say there, the jump from 85 to 125 has become a lot stronger now. Like maybe 5-10 years ago, kids were going from 85 to a 250F.
Yeah.
Now you see most kids coming up through the rank using the 125 as a stepping stone. Like 10 years ago, that wasn't happening.
The MX 125 has shown to people that is something you need to do. Again, getting back onto the argument and the point of two strokes against four strokes, I think the other thing is that this is actually sounds like it's in favour of the two stroke, but in fact it makes the point for the four stroke in that you get with the four strokes. Everybody's putting a lot more development into the four-stroke chassis-wise and so forth, and with a little bit more with suspension, but with electronics and so forth. They haven't invested it in the two-strokes, and neither have KTM, to be honest. They've shifted things around a little bit. They put a counterbalance shaft in and a few other bits and pieces, but they haven't made massive strides. With the four-stroke range, with all the fuel injection and mapping, you've got all the team input. We talk about Grand Prix being twos and four-stroke. Coming back to two-strokes. But with them being the four strokes, and they've got all of that research, all that development, all the top riders, all the feedback, all of the chassis changes, everything that's going on at GP level is being done on the four strokes. That's feeding into the bikes that are selling to the guys in the street. So that is why, in a lot of ways, if they were running on two strokes and we were running with all, again, if you looked at more like road bikes maybe in the MotoGP type thing, if you had all that electronics, all that control, all that management, all that feedback, all those new chassis, all based around a two-stroke engine, things would be a lot closer, if not better, in a two-stroke. But the development from all of them stopped.
Yeah.
But all the big chassis changes and things like that. Horsepower's a nice idea, but it's all about delivery, balance, weight, everything else, and that package you get with the 4-stroke. So
there's no, there's very little development.
Yeah.
On 2-strokes, like the KTM and the Yamaha have got 125s that are good, so they're not really trying to make them much better. Obviously Honda, Suzuki, Kawi don't make them anymore.
Yeah.
So
over 10 years now they've finished making 2-strokes.
I think it's a shame. I think they should bring them back because I think there's a market for it, and I think they would sell more bikes with it.
Do you think if say those brands did start making 2-strokes again, you could see it a bit more like MotoGP, where the elite riders are riding these 4-stroke bikes, these mega machines, and then the average riders out there just riding normal 2-strokes, bikes they can actually use properly? Like in MotoGP, no normal person's out there riding a MotoGP bike for their track bike, are they?
No.
They're just running more standard normal stuff.
I don't know how much further you could go on it, really. Like a factory CR250 and it's like CR250 that you'd get. There wouldn't be. I don't think there'd be like a massive difference as compared to like a 450 bike from a shop and Tim Gass's factory bike. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like the bike Roxon rode at Straight Rhythm, you could quite easily build that bike yourself. You're never going to build a spec of Roxon's 450. Yeah. So and I kind of think that the racing was better. Like if you go back to the racing on the 2-strokes, the racing was way better. The tracks developed way better. I found even when I was doing the British 2-stroke series, I was doing 2 classes in a day. So I was MX2 and I was in the 2-stroke class. And just in that in the 2-stroke class moto, how the track developed and made more lines just in that one moto, just in that 30-minute moto, whatever it was. It's unreal, dude. Like on the 250F, it's a train. Everyone's just racing the train.
You feel that 4-strokes have changed the way.
Yeah, like there's different lines, like and the corners go high. Have you ever noticed the sand tracks now? There's no decent built sand berms. And you do one motor on 250s and the berms are twice as high as what they used to be. There's lines, there's braking bumps into the turn, there's stutter bumps coming out the corner when the power comes in. So, people don't have to change the lines now because it's literally like you go to a qualifying session in MX2, there's one line, and whoever can do that one line the best is going to,
You're talking about Blacksall, aren't you? I remember watching that MX2 race, and you're literally, like you're saying, it was a train.
Train, wasn't it?
Coming through.
From 4th place till 12th place in that race, there was the train of us. Then in the 2-stroke race, all of a sudden there's more lines on the track. How is that possible? And I'll tell you, Blacksall was one, but the main place I realised it was at Hawkstone Park. Dude, it was so much more fun to ride that. And Neil's bike was awesome. That Suzuki 250 Neil had was a really good bike to ride. And I had so much more fun on my 250 Honda because the lines developed.
15 years old.
Yeah. The lines developed, like the ruts were different, the racing was different. Just everything just feels so much different. I think where the bikes feel so light because of the engine, where the engine's placed, and the displacement of the weight and the power. Like the 250F and the 450 have got like a real heavy grounded feel, where the 2-strokes seem to float around a bit more. But then I think they make the tracks rougher because there's no weight going through the back, or there's less weight going through the back wheel in the back end tracks. So obviously that turns it up. Like if you go watch the GPs from like the, say like 95 to 2002, you go watch a race in there, and go watch like a sand race, dude. Like there's 6 or 7 lines around most of the turns, and like you watch a GP now, there's like you're lucky if you get 3 lines across, and that's just the way that the bikes develop the lines,
People always go back to say, like 2-strokes were the best for racing. When people you think like the Stewart Carmichael battles when they was on 2-strokes, or Stewart on the 125. Yeah. But do you think he would have been riding like that if he was on a 250F then? No,
I think the biggest difference is like the 4-stroke. It takes a little bit of, like you've always got traction on a 4-stroke. Like you hit the gas and you normally got traction, where those 252 strokes, everything had to be so perfect, You couldn't like roll up to a jump and seat bounce like a triple. You had to get the corner good and then go for the triple. Yeah. Like if you're skimming a set of whoops and you start wheel spin the 2-stroke, it was technique that got it right. Now everything's got so much traction, it takes away that percentage of the rider.
There's a reason Larocco's Leap was a lot cooler back in the 125 days, wasn't it?
No, for sure. And also, like, if you look at the racing in the Supercross, that's the reason why there was, like, 4 good guys, like Stewart, Reed, Carmichael, who else was
Wyndham.
There? Wyndham. There was those guys broke away a lot, Now the gap's a lot less from 1st to 15th. Those guys will stay on the same lap. Mm-hmm. Like I'm not saying that it's easy, like motocross, no matter what bike you ride, it's not easy, but I think it's easier, for the guy that's finishing 12th to be closer to the leader, where, you know, like a guy like Stuart or Carmichael, where they got so much momentum, they've got such a good feel for a bike. You know, the two-stroke, you have to ride the two-stroke right to go fast.
Yeah.
You know, like there's a lot of like leeway in a four-stroke. Like, you know, like you never see anyone mess up triples now anymore, do you?
Yeah, no,
Dude,
very
like
rarely,
you can
very
literally
rarely, yeah.
stop before the
Put me on
triple
one.
and seat down. Where before, you know, like if you didn't get everything perfect, the guys are doubling. You know?
You saw a lot more cases back in the day.
You know.
I remember when I was on 85s, it was right around the era that Honda did the 150. I remember there was a load of kids that I used to race against, and like I'd have their number, and then they got on 150, and suddenly they're beating me.
Yeah.
And I was just convinced myself it's because these four-strokes are easy to ride.
Yeah.
Do you reckon
they are,
it's true?
Oh, yeah, 100% they are. But the problem is like I had this conversation with Lewis Gregory on the weekend actually. You know when he was doing he was riding a 125 or 250 against, no, he was riding 250 against 450s, and he also did the 125 against the 250Fs. And you'd look in qualifying, he'd probably qualify between 8th and 12th. He always made Super Pole. And then his results were like 13, 14, 15 all the time. It's because you ride them so differently, you can't actually race them together, you know, like especially when the four strokes make the line. So the two stroke, you have to carry a lot of momentum around the turn and then go. If you've got a bike in front of you, you can't carry the momentum, can you? So you stop and then the four stroke goes away from you,
Yeah.
then you've got to make that time up again. So you can't really line stuff up. That's why it doesn't really work racing the two together, I don't think.
Do you think the rule coming in this year with the being able to race a 252 stroke against 254 strokes would change that at all?
If you can get a start in a 252 stroke, then for sure it's the one. You know, like, but it's like anything that I think that racing is so like one lining, you know, and especially in the MX2 class where you get a start, everyone's going pretty quick in it. You know, like everywhere you look in the world, I think Australia they cancelled it, South Africa they cancelled it, Canada they cancelled it.
Cancelled having 250s in the MX2 class.
The first year that they had it, a 252 stroke won the championship in the MX2 every time. You know, like that guy in Australia, Luke Arbon, I think his name was, like the whole shots he was pulling on the 252 stroke. You know, and the thing with that is you buy the bike, you probably put a park on it and some good fuel and you're sweet. You know, old mate next to him on the 250F, he's probably
spending thousands,
4 or 5 grand on that bike and he's still getting beaten by the
20.
Yeah,
isn't it? But then you think like you take it back, right? So a 252 stroke used to be meant to be competitive against a 450 and a 125, and now there's gone 252 stroke against 250F. So think about the development that the 250F has made in the last 10, 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like you think all those old heavy 250Fs that
I've been doing some research recently for the video that we're going to shoot on Thursday. Top secret video, we can't reveal much. But back in the day, the Yamaha guys came up with the 400cc, because the first four strokes 400cc, because they worked out that a four-stroke needed to be 1.6 times the power of a two-stroke.
Or the capacity to compare.
Yeah, to compete.
Mm.
And now we're seeing 250 versus 250. It just shows how far it's come.
Like
since
you
then.
think Pashon and Everts that year, 04, like for the first half of the year, Pashon could run with Everts, and then I think his head went a little bit when he realised what a hard job it was. And now, what are we, like 15 years later, and you can race that bike against 250Fs, you know, like it's a big difference, eh? But I think it's quite fair, like on a lap time, I think you'd be quicker on the 252 stroke, but then again, the racing's so different, you know, it's hard to actually race unless you can get clear. Like if you get clear air, you're golden, but if you're in the pack, it's such a different way of riding, you know, to set stuff up is going to be quite difficult, I think.
Both the bikes make their speed in totally different places, so you've got acceleration and braking bumps all in the wrong places for the two-stroke, really. It's
And the lines are different.
Can you race a 252 stroke in EMX 250 or no?
not in the EMX 250. You can in the EMX two-stroke. So when there was that two-stroke series, yes.
Yeah,
but you couldn't in the.
You're not in the 250.
Like the I'm sure that the manufacturers wouldn't, in the World Championship, they wouldn't have that.
They wouldn't.
Not in the, especially not in the World Championship.
No,
they
like
won't have
they, you know, we're quite influenced with
I think they were quite
manufacturers.
upset in the Dutch Championship because the kiddie won that on a 252 stroke.
Yeah,
as
well,
well.
those-
Oh no,
those
they
back
did,
then,
didn't
yeah.
they? Because Crash went and pulled about 4 seconds on a 252 stroke, didn't he?
Mm.
And then it
There's
got
another
canned.
Oh no,
That's
no,
it.
no!
That's
It
what I'm
was,
saying,
it was
dude.
Dunn, wasn't it? Who won
No,
it?
no,
Dunn won it on a two-stroke.
Yeah, but Crash, the first time that they had it was at Falkensward, and in the first practice or in qualifying practice, is 4 seconds quicker than the next 250F.
Yeah.
And then that only lasts. You know what I
Yeah, it doesn't
mean?
last
It
long,
only
yeah.
it doesn't last long, and it seems to disappear.
Let me ask you this then. So, obviously, we've discussed that if your four-stroke goes bang, it's more expensive. But do you think now is a modern four-stroke as reliable, more reliable than a two-stroke for the average rider, not for
If I
a
jump,
GP little
I
bike?
think that if you with both machines, obviously we've got to take this that both machines are being serviced and looked after properly and being ridden properly on that basis with the correct amount of maintenance. I think that you do still have more chance of things going horribly wrong for you with a 4-stroke than you do with a 2-stroke, but the gap is not as big as it was. If you do not look after your 4-stroke properly, it will hurt you big time financially. So whereas a 2-stroke, you can be a bit more abusive. Yeah, you're going to get some bills, but it's nothing. It's not even in the world of it. You know, I see 4-strokes coming to my place that people really have not looked after, and you just show them a bucket of carnage, you know, and they look at you like, well, that's not fair, or it's not reason. No, it's, you know, you don't be under any illusion. You know, it's not difficult to change your oil, look after your engine, warm it up properly, ride it properly. You don't have to keep bouncing it off the rev limiter 3 times every jump.
Yeah, you're not Justin Bradshaw. You don't need to do that.
No, you don't have to misbehave. And if you ride it properly, which is, funnily enough, the fastest way to go as well, and you look after it properly, the 4-stroke generally these days is pretty good. But the 2-stroke would win on that front.
If you're running on a tight budget,
2-stroke.
maybe 2-stroke.
I find like my opinion on that is the difference I see in it is.
That was a big sigh there.
I'm trying to get my thoughts together on it. Or trying to think how to put my thoughts across on what I think. Like if I'm buying a bike to do motos on, you know, like say I'm going to go race a championship and I've got to get fit. Like I'm going to go buy. I'd like to buy a 250F, but I wouldn't. I'd buy a 450.
Yeah.
Not that I enjoy riding it, but if I want to put a lot of hours on a bike, I'd buy a 450 that was pretty new, put some decent clutch springs in it, and you could pretty much go and do, or I've done 30, 40 hours on a bike and then just sold it on and not, like literally not done a single thing to it. Where with a 2-stroke, I think like I enjoyed riding it, but I hate the thought of riding my 2-stroke hard. Because I know every time you ride that bike, you lose a percentage on it, especially the 125. And I've known this since I've been, since I've been a kid, I've known that. You know, like where I think, like a 125, the way that we ride them, you're going to get 10 hours out of a piston, maybe, is it? Yeah. You know, like a 450, like Roland said, if you're looking after it, what are you going to get? 40, 50 hours of just continuous riding at a good level. You know, like I don't think that the 4-strokes lose the percentage as quick as the 2-strokes do, because you ride the 2-strokes so much harder. That's my thought on it anyway. You know, like I have to do motors on my 2-stroke because that's the only 2 bikes I got. But you know, like I don't mind doing a 30-minute motor on a 450 and parking it and going straight back.
Like it's taking that.
It doesn't matter. You know, like where I'm like, you know, even I get sometimes to 20 minutes and I think, man, I need to give this 125 a rest. You know, where I've never 250Fs a little bit, but 450s I've never ever felt like, this bike needs a rest or something. You know. They've definitely come a long way, haven't they? Like,
they have,
the new bikes are pretty much, unless something, you know, like always something, you know, it's possible something goes wrong. But if you just get a normal bike that's just a normal bike, and I think you can just ride them forever, pretty much.
I think the other thing just to bear in mind, which is, you know, spot on what you're saying, but the other thing just to bear in mind, just if you do the maintenance yourself or whatever you choose to do, but if you were to bring a 450 to me and say, Roland, fit me a new piston in there, and you'd bring me a 125, it is a good 4.5, 5 times the price to change a piston in a 4-stroke. By the time you get, you know, most of them I like to take the engine out and so forth. Yeah, you'd be talking £400-500, whereas sub £100 you got a new piston in your 2-stroke. So whereas you haven't got the level of maintenance, but so you're paying out, but you're still, you know,
it's like,
and you can do it yourself on a 2-stroke.
So it costs even less than
your service on your Renault is a lot cheaper than your service on your Ferrari, kind of thing, when you take it to the garage.
Yeah, but in this principle, you'd service your Ferrari every 20 hours and your Renault every 3.
Yeah,
every 20,000
still
miles.
Still works out cheaper though. So if you're getting 3 times the riding in, then it's 5 times the price. It's still cheaper on the 2-stroke.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I think with the 2-stroke, the biggest thing is like, you know, obviously you got to keep it super clean. Like, I know it sounds bad. I've looked in the 450 airbox sometimes and you see a bit of dirt. You don't really stress about it. But on the
Roland's like
on the 125, dude, on the 125 or on my 500, that can't be a speck in there. You know, and you stress it if you see a speck. I don't know, but the 4-stroke seems to keep running. Yeah. Like I've looked in there and thought, that's not so good, and still done like another 4 or 5 days riding before giving the bike back. You know, where the 2-stroke, you look in there and you see that and you're like, maybe I should just, you know, stop now and just
clean this up. But let's talk about one last point I want to bring up then. Let's talk about resale value. So the bike you rode the British 2-stroke series on in 2017 was a 2002
CR250.
You get some decent money back for that now if you still had it, would you?
Oh, dude, I got that. I got like this was still when prices were normal, and that bike was like mint when I got it. I got it for $3,000. I didn't ride it much though. Like I only did it for the races and wanted, so I probably rode it about 10 times, and I sold it for 3,700.
Do you reckon, how much more do you reckon it'd be today, or do you think it'd be about the
Oh
same?
no, it'd be expensive now. Like everything's gone stupid. That bike could probably be worth about 4 now.
And then, if you had
I wish I never sold it. I wish I still had that bike. That bike was a special bike. Like when I rode that bike the next season, it was a brand new bike out the box, and first day I was like, that's
even that
interesting.
same season, you had an 04 as well, didn't you? Or an 03 that you didn't like as much.
Frez, the guy that I bought it off, he's good friends with Eastie, and like he's Honda mad. You know, everything was genuine Honda. Like he got the part from Dep that worked. Just everything was like. I remember the first time I rode that bike, and everyone was saying about how slow the Hondas were, and I literally, it was when I wasn't riding a lot. I did a race in Mildenhall. I did 2 laps, and I had to do a lap of the pegs to like get my breath back because I couldn't hold on to it. And I thought to myself that day, I was like, Jesus, if anyone can actually like ride up this bike to its full potential, there's not much more that's going to be quicker. And then it showed when the racing started, you know, like I was pretty much top 3 the whole of that championship against guys that were winning the world 2-stroke thing or whatever it was, you know. It was a strong bike there. Just like, the only difference with the Honda is it's either on or off. Like that bike had nothing and then it would come in so hard. So it's actually quite hard to ride on like slow tracks.
Feel like a proper old school 250.
Old school, dude. It's on or off. There was no like rolling on the gas through the turns. You either had to clutch it or keep it going. Where like the KTM's now, it's almost like riding a 4-stroke. There's so much like smooth bottom end power and traction. That's the biggest difference I found between that Husqvarna I had and like the old school 2-strokes. Is the bottom end and the smoothness. You can make a mistake and the power's there to go again. Where in those old bikes, you really have to keep a clutch in. You know, you make a mistake, you've got to make sure in the next 3 or 4 turns you get everything sweet. Otherwise, you've lost like over a second a lap. Where the new bikes is a little bit more like the power straight there. It almost feels like it's almost like fuel injected. Yeah. Straight away, there's power. You know, like that's the biggest difference I found.
So going back to what I was saying there. So you reckon you could fetch about $4,000 for your 15, 17-year-old 2-stroke?
I think if you buy a bike that's like you're gonna sell it for what you buy it for, that you know, like a 2-stroke, you're gonna buy it for. Say you get a second-hand bike for $3,000, you're gonna sell it for between $2,700 and $3,000. You're gonna lose like $200-300 in it. You know, once it's lost its money. So you buy like a 2-year-old bike. Once you've lost that money, that bike's always gonna be worth the same money you paid for it. And that's just the way it is with the 2-stroke.
But so 4-strokes, the oldest 450 Honda you could buy is like an 04, I think, when they first came out. A, is there any of those still going? And B, what would you be fetching for one of those?
I think you'd struggle to find any kind of reference point to think what it would be worth. I think it'd be very much down to the condition of it. But what would the bike be worth? I don't know.
Less than a 2-stroke, less than $4,000.
Yeah, but the thing is, you wouldn't be. It's a completely different thing now, because what you're looking at there is, if in real terms, the Honda, there aren't so many of them around. There's a lot more people want them. There's a lot of people. If you look at back in the day, the people that might perhaps buy one now, 38, 40 years old, and they had a lot of joy on those 15 years ago when that bike was a new bike. So they're buying it not just because of it as a motocross bike. They're actually getting a bit of a trip down memory lane. Yeah, so that's the 2-stroke. The 4-stroke, maybe there's some guys that still got a passion for an
old fans.
No,
that's probably an unfair comparison then. Going
it is
that
a very
extreme.
unfair comparison.
But I would never buy a second-hand 4-stroke. Not a chance. There's no ways I would do that, dude. Like I wouldn't. I'd just rather not ride than take that chance. And it's weird, isn't it? Like you kind of think, like my brother-in-law, he had a KTM. I think he did 70 hours on a 250F. Didn't have a single problem with it.
One.
Yeah, but there's no chance I'll buy it.
I think the other thing, if you do buy a second-hand bike, unless you really know the guy you've bought it from, I think regardless 2-stroke, 4-stroke, you've pretty much got to go through it, top to bottom, and make sure everything is all safe and mechanical as it should be. All the cables are all good, the engine's all fresh and proper, all the bearings and the suspension and everything. And I think that needs to be a way to go with it, And again, with schoolboy dads, if you've got yourself your son, you got involved in the sport because you've got a passion or you love for it, you did it yourself, or it's something to do on the weekend, with your son. Why not on a Wednesday and a Thursday night in the garage working with your lad, servicing, greasing, looking after your motocross bike, Have a beer and a can of Coke.
Grease the whole elbow at the same time. Have a couple of wet ones.
Yeah, that's right. A few beers and do the bike, not too many. You've got to make sure you do your nuts and bolts up.
Yeah.
But it's all part and parcel of owning it.
I think a lot of kids miss that now. Like a lot of like in my day, well, I'm not that old, but in my day, there was something that, you know, like you got to wash your kit, you got to make, like I knew when I was 13, 14 years old, I could change pistons on my bikes, change tyres. Like you ask kids now, do you want to go change your tyre? They'll be like, what? Like, where would you start?
I'm busy.
Yeah.
You know, like I think, you know, you kind of understand your bike a bit more, you understand.
I think it helps if you understand how it works. It helps you to ride it, and also testing and things like that.
And
It
also,
helps
like
a
the
lot,
kids
doesn't
are then put in, like they invest in their pride into their stuff, you know, like they're taking care of their stuff, like, and then they invest in a lot more into their whole racing career, you know. So then they want to get something out of that, you know, like when they're putting the time in, training, riding, working on their bikes, understanding stuff, dieting. When you're putting all that in, that's when the results come the other way, you know. Like it's like anything in life, what you put in is what you get out. It's the same as Roland says, you know, put those extra time in your bike, and I'm a big believer in the world works like that, you know, you put your time in, look after your bike will look after you, 100%, you know, like the kids that don't have a clue about it, you know, like I think luck works like that. It's got a funny way of working, I think, you know, like.
I think quite genuinely though, you can hear a lot of bravado in the pits. You get it in all sports and in all walks of life, you know, plenty of bravado. But when you actually go to the line, you know whether you've done your homework, you know whether you're fit, you know whether you've eaten properly, you know that your bike's right, you know, you're confident in it. All confidence is a massive part of any sport. It's really mega important in motocross. And the whole idea that you've been through the bike, you know, you've done your work, you know, it's all part and parcel, right, you know, I've worked for this, you know, and now's my time to let that gate drop, and they're going to have it, you know. And that is all part and parcel of being confident in that your bike's all good, everything's all good, you've checked everything, you've eaten properly, you've got a good fuel in your tank, you've got good fuel in your belly, you're good to go, and that's all part and parcel.
Right, so let's bring this to an end then. I'll have a quick look at the live chat to see what they're saying, but I think I know which way they're siding. You put up a good fight there, Roland. I think the 4 strokes, you come up some good points. Obviously, motocross isn't going back down the 2-stroke route in any professional way, but the internet is certainly a 2-stroke haven, I would say. We've got Martin Cuddy, our mate Martin from Paradise MX. 2 strokes, hands down, no questions. End of.
Tell him he needs to burn those orange things in his garage, dude.
Yeah.
Martin, you heard it. You heard him say it.
Burn those kids. Keep it red, my man.
He's got a red one, doesn't he?
2-stroke.
We got Casey over there, 2 strokes for life.
What are you saying?
David Gaffney, 2 strokes are the best to ride for fun. Theo, 2 strokes rule the world. I don't know if they rule the world anymore, but they rule our hearts for sure, don't they, Nev?
Yeah.
Lee Keaton, who we know from Spain as well, was proper racing back on 2 strokes. More lines, etc. He agrees with you then.
Exactly, 100%. You know, like, it's just, but you know, you try to look at life through like rose-tinted specs, you know, like those days are gone, and you just got to accept it, and this is the new way, you know. Like we just a little bit unfortunate that we lived through that. Yeah,
good time. There's got to be kids coming up now that like
when it goes electric bike and they're like, dude, 4 strokes are the bollocks, mate.
Yeah, but I think the other thing too, just to really get a grasp on this, is I think we need to. There is always going to be a yard of separation between those guys that are professional racers running in the Grand Prix,
100%.
And I think that ultimately, when it comes to it, if you're racing at, pick any club, let's just say Stevenage Club, for instance, at Mildenhall, there's kiddies winning on 125s against the 250s. There's 252 strokes here. There's a 4-stroke. You know, it is always going to be 95% plus, even more than that rider. Ride whatever makes you smile.
Exactly. Even in a big bike class, there's no one in the world racing club level that can ride a 450 as fast as you can go there. So,
have you been to Portsmouth race lately?
Are you down there?
I had not me, but just about 6 or 7 guys that are
riding 4 strokes.
Just to shatter a few illusions. I heard this quite some time ago, so I knew that when I then had a meeting with the guys from Get, the ignition people, and I've got all the data logs and so forth, so you know it really makes a lie of people, you know, because you can see on that how much time people actually spend on full throttle. Well, on a 250, Grand Prix riders do not spend 20% of a lap on absolute full throttle, and on a 450 at the top end they're talking 7-8% per lap. There was
full gas.
Full gas. 7-8% full throttle on a 450 from a
So,
guy
like,
who would
break
go
that-
past you.
Break
like
that
you run
down
out
and
of
say if
petrol.
it's a 2-minute lap, then 7% of
Is that
2 minutes. It's not very many seconds,
no,
is it?
No. And I do know from HRC they used to romp around with a fuel tank for a CR250. And one of the foreign riders used to ride in the British, did in the GPs. He was on Suzuki's for a while. He went round Honda Park, and the Japs hauled him in afterwards, sort of thing, for his debriefing, and sort of asked him how much he felt he was on full throttle. And he knew that they had done that, and he thought he had done 80%. And they said, no, you were staggering because you were a whole 20%. And they were impressed at 20%. He was absolutely gutted.
Yeah.
But they were like, that is not bad. That is pretty good going around Honda Park, 20%. With not many people hit
Whereas
20%.
if you was on a 125 round Honda Park, what do you reckon full gas?
Well, you
probably
think,
no
oh,
more
you-
than 35 still.
You
but
think like full gas, you know, it's time to change gear, isn't it? And then you
Yeah.
go, it's not often you actually like,
Mm.
you know, like you never, like actually yesterday, on Monday, me and my brother-in-law said it's the first time ever we've gone down the straight and actually looked for
I
another
see the
gear.
clip. Fifth gear pin.
Fifth gear pin.
Where there aren't
You know,
jets.
so that is absolutely, you know, like normally by the time you get to there, you going up, aren't you? So then you're back to like mid.
Mm. Interesting, though. That's
no,
interesting.
yeah, massively interesting.
Yeah.
Right, so let's call it there. It's a win for the two strokes, I'm afraid.
Yeah.
I think we knew it was going to happen. The two strokes ruled the internet for sure. We're going to go into segment number 2 of today's show, which is going to be tech tips. Run the intro. Right, so we're going to go into tech tips here. I'm going to show you a little video in a second once we've got it teed up. It's a little tease of what me, Roland and Nev were up to last weekend, or last week. As we know, Roland from Hardcore Racing here, he's a bit of a two-stroke professor. He's got some secrets, tips, and he knows his way around a two-stroke bike is what I'm trying to say. And obviously we know Nev, he's an experienced two-stroke racer. You've seen him on this channel, killing it on two-stroke. So we're going to ask them about some tips and tricks to set up your two-stroke bikes. Make sure to send your questions if you've got any. They'll help you set up your bike, or any tips in the workshop or riding tips for two-strokes as well. The guys will answer that. But let's just play the video and have a quick watch of that. Today I'm teaming up with Roland Shaw from Hardcore Racing and Nev Bradshaw to give you 5 ways to turn your YZ125 into a certified rocket ship. Let's go. So down at the track today, and we've got 3 YZ125s. Nev bought one during lockdown. Roland over there is actually a Yamaha dealer, and he's also the owner of Hardcore Racing, and he supplies a load of trick parts like HGS pipes, VHM, V-Force and all that stuff. So his bike is like a factory tuned version of the YZ125. He's got that here, and Harrison Ford over there has also got a YZ125. He's doing some riding today. YZs seem to be really popular at the moment, 125s that is. I've got one at home. On Instagram it seems like everyone's got one at the moment, so we're going to be giving you 5 tips. We're going to be hooking Nev's bike up some trick parts, and he's going to be giving them all a test to see what improvements we can make out on the track. So let's get riding, shall we? Getting on the 125 hype, Nev. You started a bit of a movement here with the YZ125.
I don't know if I started, but there's definitely a movement going on. There's some cool videos going out, guys shooting 125s, and yeah, I think it's pretty sick, you know, like, good fun to ride, so let's keep it going, eh?
Yeah, so guys, remember to send us your tech questions, your setup questions, and your two-stroke riding questions, and Nev and Roland will be on the case to answer them. I'll start things off, Roland. You're going out and buying your two-stroke. Most people know that the first thing you should be doing to increase performance on track is going and buying an aftermarket pipe. Just tell me why don't bikes come with an aftermarket pipe? Why don't the manufacturers make a pipe that gives that kind of performance?
I think the gap is closer now than it ever was. But I think the main thing that you have to get into the mindset of the manufacturer, and they always have to bear in mind that not everybody is buying a motorcycle. Not everybody that is buying a motorcycle is a highly qualified rider. So you really are providing a bike that everybody that hopefully can ride. So it's going to have a really wide power band, be flexible, not be too aggressive in its power delivery and so forth. So therefore they're trying to cater for everybody, knowing that you can go and buy a performance pipe if you want to make the bike go faster. It's a lot harder to go buy a pipe to make the bike go slower.
Yeah.
So they're giving you a benchmark.
It does happen.
Yeah. I know. Well, in theory, okay, you can't buy a HCS pipe and make it slower. So, but ultimately, that is, I think, is the base idea, that it makes it a bike so that not every kid who buys an 85 is able to compete at the British Championship. So you have to have something that they can learn to ride on. So they want people who have never ridden before to buy a new motorcycle. You can't put them on something that's a rocket ship.
And then from your professional point of view, then, just if you had a stock YZ125 and you put a pipe on it, how much difference would that make for a normal rider out there?
Massive. I've actually got a good comparison. I got a bike in South Africa, a brand new 125 to race last year, and then this one that I bought now. And the only difference between the two bikes was the one had an HCS pipe and the one had a standard pipe, and the pipe just makes it so much more fun to ride. Like, it just makes the power like a lot more torquey, a lot more usable. You can flick the bike about. Like the 125s are good because you can ride them hard, but when the bike's got no power, it's not that much fun to ride because you're having to carry so much speed through the corners that it makes it like you're having to override the bike, trying to make up for the power you don't have. But just a single pipe makes a big difference, and especially like on the Yamaha, and I think the Japanese bike, like a exhaust pipe and a silencer is a massive improvement. But like Roland said, now like the KTM's now, like where they develop and put it into production, like the standard pipe and the KTM or Husky is quite good, like it's almost as good as a performance pipe. But obviously, the Japanese bikes, like literally, dude, like we used to get bikes, pipes straight off, like we wouldn't even waste our time even riding with the standard pipe on, massive difference, massive difference. And
from a riding point of view then, obviously in your day job coaching, what advice do you give that's different to a 125 rider to a 250F rider? Is there any way that you tell them to ride differently?
Yeah, like I kind of like, the biggest difference will be momentum. Because the 250F is easy to get your momentum going again, where the 125 is really hard to get going again. So the first thing is keeping momentum, and the second thing is to be good on your gear change. Like a lot of the time you got to go down to second the corner, come in hard second, get the bike going, and then come back up the gears again. You can't be lazy on the gears on a two-stroke, because if you get that one thing wrong, like you lose time through the turn, but then you've also lost your momentum for the next straight. So definitely, just momentum. That's the biggest thing. Momentum and being in the right gears all the time, because one mistake with gear change leads to like half a second a lap, where with the 250F, you can make a mistake and you've got the power there to strain yourself up or jump the next jump even, when a 125 or a two-stroke, it's all about the momentum you carry up to it. You haven't got that massive torque to get yourself going. So definitely gear change and then momentum, naturally that when you're riding against two-stroke riders, the lines are different, and that's one of the reasons why, is because you have to carry momentum around corners. Like you look at the four-stroke lines, everything's very tight because you've got the power to come out the turns, but on the two-stroke, momentum's king. Like stopping and going is not the one on the two-stroke. You've got to come in a little bit wider, keep your initial part of the corner good, make sure you're in the right gear, come out the corner, and then start shifting up.
And then Roland, going back to a tech side then, in the video that we're going to be releasing next week, I think, you said, there's a little bit of spoiler for this video, but we'll go for it anyway. You said that the main tip that you give out to people that shocks people, even people like Nev, is the jetting specs that you give out. Do you want to just talk about that and why you give out those specs?
Because again, what an engine will survive with and what it will generally feel okay with is all well and good, because most people, most riders, they go out and they feel the initial. So you feel your first initial burst of power. Oh, this feels really good and sharp and so forth. But what they don't tend to notice is that further on down the moto, the engine's getting too hot. It's losing horsepower and so forth because it's running lean and things like that are going on. So what you need to be able to do is to find that balance of getting the right amount of fuel in. Two strokes require that the engine runs at a much lower temperature than that of a of a 4-stroke. If you want to gain torque, if you want to gain power out of a 4-stroke, make it nice and hot, get the exhaust pipe really hot, and so forth. With a 2-stroke, it's the opposite. So if you want good power out of a 2-stroke, then you want to keep the engine a bit cooler. By the jetting itself, you get more torque because of the way the expansion chamber behaves and so forth. But ultimately, with the jetting, most people are quite surprised. I'm quite surprised in the last few years just how big we are having to go with the jets because of modern pump fuel. You know, what you buy at the petrol station just isn't what you were buying 8-10 years ago. You know, it's not very consistent, it's pragmatic, and you have to be a little bit sharper with it. I think for a lot of people, I think most riders in reality, if you put a pipe on it, set the bike up correctly, get your suspension good, run the right jet in, you know, because I've always had that policy, you know, a well-jetted stock bike is much, much better than a highly tuned bike with the wrong jets in it, you know, so it is getting the setup, getting the jetting, keeping the engine running cool. The jetting is absolutely imperative, and keeping those temperatures down. You know, I run with data loggers and bits and pieces in the cooling system because it gives me an indication of whether I'm running too hot, too cold. Because of time on the dyno, you can see what the sort of temperature and exhaust gas temperatures are going to bring you the best power. So jetting is so critical. It's the same as anything. You've got to feed your body, you've got to feed your engine with good stuff, you know, in the right proportions at the right times.
So what is that you talked about the different needle that you need to be using? Just tell us about that.
Well, on the Yamaha, it is only fractionally richer. You know, it is a little bit richer in the mid-range on the spares kit needle. So the 44 against the 70, the 74 against the 73 needle. It is only marginal, but it does make a difference. It makes the engine run cooler, and again, like we were sort of joshing a little bit. It was quite a true fact, but we found quite humorous that, you know, we kid ourselves that we all spend all our time on full throttle, even on a 125. On a 125, it's going to be higher than it is on other bikes, but it's still the running of the machine while it's on in parts throttle and needle settings rather than just on a full wide open throttle is so critical to your lap times and the way the power. Yeah. And again, if you can be fine on the main, but if you're not on the needle, then you can increase your engine's temperature by quite a lot. You'll start to lose torque and start to have mechanical issues. Things won't last.
Just talk to me about fuel, like race fuel, and obviously, Nev, you were saying last week you're not out there buying race fuel anymore. HSBC aren't sponsoring for that. What difference will race fuel make if that's all you're putting in?
Yeah, it depends whether you want to sort of drop names or whatever, but of course it's like everything, you know, there are several different brands out there. I have, for 2-strokes, I've got one clear winner, but you know,
who's that?
That would be Sunoco with their 102.
And how much better is that than pump fuel?
Well, if you stick it in a YZ125, again with the correct settings around it, are easily finding a plus of 2 brake horsepower. But the other thing is, so with Nev, if I was to put that fuel in there, we'd quite happily gain another 2 brake horsepower over quite a wide area, which is quite a decent gain. But the other thing is that we're particularly running with that fuel and others, to be honest. You know, I don't want to sort of just, but there are other fuels that have the same effect. You take the engine to bits, and not only will we go down from a 520, you'll be on like a 460, 470 main. You're much more in the area of other settings within the carburetor that aren't changeable, emulsion tubes, things like that. They all start to come into play better with that. But anyway, so but when you strip the engine out, piston, everything, you can see it's running so much cooler. There's less erratic wear or funny wear patterns on the piston. The crown's much cleaner, power valve, everything. You just get that feel when you take an engine to bits. You know, and I've taken a lot apart, that things have been well. They don't smell cooked. Everything's all nice and clean and tidy, and there's uniform wear on it, so you know the thing's been expanding and cooling properly. So with a decent race fuel, your engine can be more reliable. It can have more horsepower, and it's the other thing I quite like about it is the fact that it's a regulated same as. So as if you treat it properly, so you don't leave the can with the lid off for a month and then stick it in your bike. You know, if you control it, keep it nice and cool, work with your race fuel properly, you know every single time you're putting that in the bike, you've got the same stuff. You can't pick up, you know. So then
when you're setting up like the ignitions and stuff, you know exactly what you're setting it up for, rather than you're not adjusting for some weird variable in the fuel.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you used race fuel on the track? What difference does it make on the track?
It is unbelievable.
I used it once. I can't remember what brand we used at Milton Hall that one time, but it blew my mind as
tested
well.
I did a lot of testing over the, like when I was at DB, we had good feel, but then a little later on we had good feel. And the good feel is like I said to the guy when I tested it, like I've never ever felt a gain like that in my life. Like no exhaust pipe, no ignition.
Yeah, I was exactly the same.
Unbelievable.
Well, actually, you tried the same stuff. That stuff that you had that we actually put in your bike was the same stuff.
And even when I was doing the
stinks out your van though, doesn't it?
Yeah, for like everything. Everything smells like it. But then when I was doing the two-stroke thing, we went 50-50, like at Hawkstone, didn't even plan it. And old mate was like, chuck 10 litres of this into your 10 litres.
On the two-stroke?
Yeah, on my two-stroke. But it's four-stroke fuel, but... and I was like, mate, like went out for qualifying and up that hill, was like clutching it to keep the front end down. And it's just, it runs cooler as well, I think, doesn't it? It runs cooler, so the whole motor, it'll stay better.
Yeah.
But it's just got such a, it's like you have to try it too. You know, and that's one of the problems when you're trying to race against, say, like a Grand Prix team that comes and does British Championship that runs that stuff all the time. Dude, that's like $120 a can, you know? Like, and you do a can a day, like.
Yeah.
And that's just one thing, that's just their fuel. Like, you're not even going into what's inside the engine, you know, it's hard to compete, you know, like with, you know, stuff like that is just, you know, the expense just goes up to that level.
It always makes me smile when you smell it like at the youth nationals. Like
Practice track.
Practice
tracks, dude.
Yeah.
I was at Oncourt last week, practice track, you could smell it. And I was like, mate, that's like just money. Just
burning,
like, I can understand it at a race, right? And
cash.
you're trying to find like a second a lap or at a practice track, man. You've got, you must have a lot of paper to burn through that stuff.
You have a thick wallet for that.
Yeah. But some people get the engines tuned that they can only run good fuel. That's the other thing. Like some people get like spec engines where they have to run race fuel all the time, you know. But I would say that from a race bike, I'd have a standard training bike, and then just say that, because then the feeling would be even better at a race, you know.
Do you have any questions you want to ask Roland in for bike setups or two-stroke tips that you've always wondered? Anything you need to ask? I'll put you on the spot now.
Don't know. Like I've spent some time with Roland, and we're pretty much on the same page with stuff. I think, like especially that testing and stuff. Like what I found was really cool was how we improved that 125 I have, and I really missed that. You know, like when I was testing before, when I was racing, you know, like you'd be struggling a bit, and then something would drop, and you'd be like, man, this is so cool. I can't wait to go race that. And I found out when we went testing the other day, like I'd love to go race that bike now. You know, like everything was a positive. Some days you go testing and you're like, oh, man, like we're not really getting the feel I want, or this isn't really working, or you know, you're just not jetting. And then you'll go the next day and it'll fall for you. You know, like you'll put like something in, especially the 4-stroke when you're trying cams all the time, and dude, like it's just endless. But then when you get days like we had where everything's a progression, you know, like it's just so cool.
What do you feel's the on kind of every single test day that you've done 2 or 3 now, right, on your bike? What's the single biggest leap you think you've made?
I would say it's between the thing is everything's a little bit. That's the thing. Everything I've put on is a little bit.
With 125, you're not making leaps
massive
and bounds,
gains, you know. But the first thing I was impressed with was when I put the pipe on and changed the jet in. That was like, man, because like my bike actually felt like the clutch was slipping at the top end because it had no power at the top. And then when I put the new pipe on and put the jet specs in, man, she just kept pulling. And then the V-Force was an enhancement. I was like, geez, wow, you know. And then when I put the head on and the needle in, I was like, geez, again, you know, like every single time. You know, the only time I felt like we didn't go forward, which what Roland said, was that ignition was mapped for good fuel. That's the only time I think we either stayed the same. But every other thing we've tried is, you know, but it's because Roland has tested that stuff and he kind of knew where he was at.
He's done the hard work for us there.
You know, and that goes a long way, you know, like if you can go to someone like Roland, you save yourself so much time and effort, like someone that's done the hours. He's done it on the dyno, he's done it with riders on the track. And that's your package, you know, this doesn't work. So you've wasted 3 days on stuff that doesn't work, and he's found what does work. So you start off at a point that's, you know, that's why, you know, Ivan Tedesco, all those guys, they hire their test riders to kind of, you know, because they can get tiring, kind of. When you're at a track and you're testing like 6 or 7 things and nothing has gone the way, has made a positive thing, and you're like, mate, like you've missed your motors that whole day because you're testing parts on the bike, you know, like that's why it's cool.
So it's valuable having a dyno. You can test out those.
Yeah, it's good, but you can
do. Yeah, you've got it. Yeah,
because you can be fooled maybe.
A lot of like I've had I've had bikes that you look at. I had a Honda once that was like 3 or 4 horsepower more than a KTM, and I was like, mate, this is going to be insane. both days we it's a long story. We changed engine, what's it called, tuners, like halfway through the season, and it happened on the Monday. We had a race on the Saturday, and so the mechanic got 2 people to do the engine. Both came with dyno charts, and we sat there. We're like, mate, you're gonna smoke everyone on this. And this bike was just an average horsepower bike with a good torque curve on it. Went out in the qualifying, and dude, you just had like the numbers. The bike that had the numbers, you could hardly ride it. You know, like you had to keep it lit everywhere. Got onto this other bike with like the average, and that's the best second half of the season I've ever had on that bike. The starts are awesome. It was easy to ride. And then from that day, I was like, and this bike was probably about 3 horsepower down on the other bike, on top numbers, and you probably at least a second half a lap, and easier to ride, quicker on it, you know. So like some stuff, like Roland will know a lot more than me on the dyno, but you know, especially like in kids racing, I can see it, like all chasing a number, you know, and it's the torque curve, and it's the way you ride the bike, and where the power is made, isn't it, and the angle of the curve, and so much more goes into it than that end number, you know. Like you always hear people talking an end number, you know, and setting up jetting and stuff on the dyno is good, and you know, like if something's completely off, you know, there's a good chance that's not going to work on the track, but you have to test it anyway, don't you? You do. Because it could be completely different on the track.
I think there's a couple of sort of examples as well, is that you can use the dyno to give you an idea for fueling and jetting. Because I actually, when I do jetting on the dyno, I don't even really do a power run. I'm just looking at the air fuel, just to give me a little hint to maybe something I might need to do when I go to the track. But if you were to look to optimum numbers that would be suggested that you should be running for air fuel on a dyno, and then you set it like that and go to the track, it's going to be a horrible bike to ride, and then it's going to blow up. So you know what works on the track. You almost go to the track and keep getting the feedback and what's giving you lap times on the track. Go back to the dyno, then put your air fuel in, look to the air fuel from that, and then you know generally what kind of area you're looking for that works on the track on the dyno, rather than trying to find a magic set of numbers on a dyno, on a 2-stroke this is, that then will work on the track, because it doesn't work that way round. So you get experience from going to the track, seeing what works on the track, what actually stays temperature-wise, is good to ride, which gets a good start, which can behave itself, and then you go to the dyno, and then you get what the setup you need from the track, and then you get the numbers from it in the dyno. Yeah, but you don't change it at the dyno. You work to that. You make sure that you're keeping with those numbers.
That does make sense. Brad Anderson did that one year. When on my first year over here, when we were on KTM 125s, the guy we rode for had a dyno at his house, and they worked along the dyno. They kept packing the cases. And then they would pack the cases to a certain amount, go test on the dyno, and then see the numbers, come back in, show someone. They got it to that bike was like, his bike would run with like rat race factory bikes. When Brad was on that Planet KTM at Hawkstone, he could run with Tyler. I don't know who the other dude was, but that's just time, isn't it? You know, and it's like you willing to do the time, isn't it? Like,
it is,
if it's your job and you're willing to like perfect it, you know. But then you can jump on the back of that. That's the cool thing about this day and age, where you get people that can do stuff and pass it on to the public, you know, like, you know, the stuff that you develop goes to the riders, you know, like when you go to like, you know, say pro circuit especially back in the day, like I think everything's a lot more open now, like when you was like had specialist 2-stroke tuners, and everything was kind of like kept in house, wasn't it? When the season finished, everything got crushed.
It did indeed.
And you never really got out, you know, like it was all secretive. But now, like, it seems like you've got a lot of good engine tuners that are putting good stuff out to everyone.
Yeah.
When you go back to, you know, in the times, if we're going to stick with the 2-stroke concept, when, you know, I now, what seems absolutely bonkers to me is the fact that, you know, you go back to 2003, 2004, what we were getting out of 125s then and winning Grand Prix with, the average 15-year-old lad who rides at Peterborough.
Yeah.
If you're not, you know, if you're not within that, or even perhaps even more than we were getting then, they're moaning they can't compete.
Yeah.
This thing is not fast enough. This bike,
yeah.
you know, this thing's only got sort of like this, you know, the figures they come out with, or you test it, you're thinking, you know, lordy, these kids, that, you know, it's almost like they don't know they're born now, you know. But then back in the day, a 200 horsepower car was quite something.
Yeah.
A lot of women just pop down the shops and took the kids to school on a 200 horsepower car now, you know.
Evolution, that is, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
How about this then? My buddy Cal Loveridge has come in the chat. He said he's worked out that VP fuel costs just over £1 a minute when you're running that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not bad when it's for free.
Yeah.
It's awesome when it's for free.
Yeah, some of the VP stuff is quite expensive, and but again, a little bit like you say, you can, and not that the VP importer is going to love this, but particularly with some of the oxygenated fuels and so forth, you can run it 50-50 on a relatively normal engine, and you'll get as much benefit from it as if you run it neat.
Full, yeah.
So you might as well run it 50-50 and get 2 minutes for £1 or whatever it is.
But
it is
Roland Shaw, money saving expert.
.com.
It is it's all the oxygen that's in the field. Like on the DB stuff, we were like legit. It was good fuel. But like I don't know, I don't know if I'd waste my money because the gain's like a little bit, but not worth the money, if that makes sense. Where that oxygenated fuel, like that is, I'd pay the money for that for like a one-off race where you need to do well. That's worth paying the money. Like where the other stuff is it's expensive, but the gain's like it's a marginal gain where you could probably make that up on the track. Where this other stuff, dude, like you'd have to ride hard to make up the feeling that you get from this oxygenated fuel.
If you don't have the bank to run race fuel, is there any particular fuel station that you go to pick up your pump fuel? Because I remember when we was kids, my dad was like, we need to go to Shell to get our race fuel.
Yeah, the thing
not
is,
race fuel to get our fuel for our bikes.
It was backed up quite a few times. Funny, excuse me on that, but NITA actually was quite funny because I was sort of struggling a little bit with when they changed from they changed the naming of the top end fuel from Shell at one point, and I remember sort of saying people that running out saying we'll never get that to behave properly off the bottom on that stuff at the minute. It's really not good. But then things change. A Skoda isn't what a Skoda was actually right now.
Skoda to me is quite a nice car.
Yeah, but back in the day it wasn't so good. But anyway, so I did actually go to half a dozen different fuel stations and picked up 5 litres of fuel within the last 6 months to dyno test all the different fuels to see what they did was. So I kept everything else the same and just changed, drained the tank down and so forth, and changed and did all the fuels. And the VP did actually come out as being consistently the best. So, the Shell. I actually like BP for consistency, but I think the Shell would be pretty consistent as well. And on the dyno, it did come out slightly better than the rest. So, yeah.
So you're saying Shell?
I would say certainly at the moment on the test samples that I did, the Shell, as buying a pump fuel, did give the best performance. And as far as running on the track's concerned, it does seem to be behaving itself well and no problems.
See, that's
always that thing like when you get to the petrol station and you open up your petrol can and you see like 110 and you see 118 and you're like, dude, I'm going 110 these days. Every single time. I think once or twice when I first got my 125, I went for the good stuff. Yeah. And even on my 500, I'm like, dude, she's bulletproof. She's going to get the cheap stuff.
Getting the cheap. We got a comment here from George. This is going straight over my head. I don't know if you know about this. He says, what are your views on electron carbs? You're going to have to explain that one to me.
Right, so electron carb is not a conventional carb setup. And you really would want to have a show of our own to really cover when you want to get into carburation. But my view on electron carb is two sides to it. One, you can get a bike to run very well on it. Do I think that you can get it any more performance than you can get from a normal carburetor? I don't think so. I think for a lot of people maybe it's easier. I think you spend a bit of money, and if it means that you're going to spend more time with your bike and you're focusing, you're looking at it and you're enjoying it, then great. But hand on heart, I would be really, really very, very surprised if someone turned up with electron carb and gave it to me for a YZ125 or a CR250 or anything like that. And ultimately, I could end up with a better carburation setting than I can get from a Mikuni or a K&N. The other thing that was quite prolific with those things is they really had a surge, a lot of sales when KTM, for instance, changed the from 16 to 17. They went from using the K&N carb to the Mikuni carburetor, which at the time the base settings from KTM weren't that great, and they're not that easy to set up. They're not as easy to set up a Mikuni as it is a K&N. They're a lot more stable and easier to work with. But anyway, so a lot of people then seemed for some reason to take the view that they were going to make life easier themselves and go get electron carb for £600. But they always said how good the K&N was. What confused me is why didn't they go buy a K&N for £300 that they had on their previous bike the year before that they really loved. So it was an odd move. But all in all, I don't think it's a bad product. But I do think that it is you're kidding yourself if you think that you can make a bike faster with that carburetor than you can with a conventionally jetted and needle valved carb.
All right, let's put a pin in that then for two-stroke tech tips. Thanks for the advice there. I quite liked your commitment to go and testing all the different fuels, like Nev was just saying. Someone's willing to put in the work somewhere, aren't they?
I'm just obsessed with it. That's all.
Let's move on to the third segment of tonight's show. Then we're going to go to Petrol Headlines. Right, so Petrol Headlines then. Roland, I know you say you're not so up to date with current affairs in motocross. You're too busy in the workshop looking at engines and whatnot. But we'll go through some headlines. The way this works is I go through 3 headlines and then we pick which order we want to talk about them. So I'll run first then. Headline number 1. Last week, I think it was, the AMA announced a 9-round calendar for the National Series. So the Americans going back racing soon. Coincidentally, one of those rounds clashes with the 2020 Motocross of Nations that is due to be held here at Matley Basin at the end of September. So that's headline number 1, which leads into headline number 2, which is last week as well. Team USA officially announced that they're pulling out of the Motocross of Nations this year for obvious reasons. And then the final headline of the day is, looks like we're going back racing here in the UK with the MX Nationals going racing in a couple of weeks and a few other announcements. So what do you want to talk about first? Nev, I'll go to you.
Racing in the UK, I reckon.
Racing in
the UK.
So was it 2 weeks? 2 weeks time?
What is it? MX National started.
First weekend of August, I think. And then also AMCA announced, didn't they, that they're racing.
AMCA starts quite late. I think that's the
end of August.
End of August. But it's quite cool. It's like literally 5 weekends in 6 weeks. So it's quite.
Are you going to race it or?
Yeah, I am.
Committed.
I'm racing.
You're going to keep it under wraps? What your plans are? Or?
I'm racing. You'll see me on the start line.
See him on the start line. So what about MX National? You going to go there, or are you not going to give that miss?
There's not really a class for me there. Where I've got a 1 to 5 and a 500. It's not really.
You're not interested in going in a fast 40 or.
The problem I have is like it just costs me money. Like
you don't have the bike.
Yeah,
for that class,
like I'd rather save that money and go race a championship on one of those bikes, and like have a crack at like 5 rounds. I'd love to go do it. I want to race it, like I'm going to try to find a race to do next weekend because I feel like I want to race again. And I'd love to do that race. It's just, I just don't have the bike to do it on, like that's basically the end.
So did you see, I think it was yesterday or a couple of days ago, they announced that they're kind of changing the format of it. They're going to, because obviously they're really cool. Completely oversubscribed now because it's pretty much the only racing, like national level racing going on in the UK this year, so far anyway. The pro classes, obviously, they've got fastest more than 40 places, so they're going to do it old school.
That's how it should be, man. Like it should
qualifying in the morning,
and then if you don't qualify,
and then if you're in,
I just don't see how that works. So like, understand that. I just don't see how, obviously it is what it is, and obviously the organisers, this is what's right for them and what they think is right for the people that are riding this series. The only thing I don't see on that is like somebody that's entered is it the expert class, the one down?
I think so, yeah.
So someone that's entered that, and then somebody that doesn't qualify for the main class goes into their class and takes their money away from them. I just don't see how that works. But 100%, dude, you should have the 40 fastest guys in the country. Everyone in the country should have a chance to qualify that. You get the 40 fastest guys and you get the best racers in that race. Fair play to them for doing that, I think.
Yeah, I think obviously there's been no announcement on the British Championship. Yeah, has there?
You know what I don't understand about it? So seeing as though we're talking about racing in the UK, right? I don't understand how you can run this MX Nationals, you can run Rocketel Sundown, you can run the AMC Championship, but all these races have been cancelled. MX Master Kids has been cancelled, the British Youth has been cancelled.
No announcement on the
There's no British surely we all in the UK and everyone's got the same rules. There's been races like there's 5 or 6 races on this weekend, there's races the previous weekend, there's races next weekend. So how is it that one person and the Bridgestone's been cancelled?
Yep.
So I just don't understand how is it that some affiliations can run and some can't. Like I don't understand that decision.
It blows my mind really,
how is
because
it?
You look at the MX Nationals and I'm looking forward to that weekend. Hopefully we can go as media, we can go and take some pictures and do some video work there. But that's a national level event, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it classed by? Are they ACU? I think now are they?
No,
Are they?
Are they not NORA now?
I'm not sure. I'm not
not gonna say
Anyway,
what it
but
is, I
they're
don't know
surely
now.
classed as a national event.
Yeah, 100%. It's the more people there than what there would be at a British Championship.
Then why can't? Then you see the BYC announcement saying they can't run because of restrictions they've got. It's just the whole thing.
MX Nationals and Bridgestone Nationals, whatever they are exactly this, like pretty much identical series, aren't they? With the classes, the people that do it. I just don't understand it. You know, AMCA is the same. 5 classes at the AMCA with 40 riders in every class, and they're running.
Yeah.
It goes back, you know.
Maybe it just comes down to like the spectator element. Maybe like the MX Nationals and don't have to rely on spectators to come in to pay the way for the riders and everything else. Where the British Championship
does. Don't really
does.
get paid, I don't think, either
Yeah,
of the championships. It's
True,
not like
true.
the money goes on to the riders at all anymore.
No, I think that I can't say 100%, but I think particularly if you want to look to the Maxis, it's definitely based on the idea that the club is actually responsible for paying for the money to the ACU to pay for the riders' winnings.
Yep.
And they have to then get
the
that
gate
back
pays
from,
for the riders' winnings.
so basically they stomp up the money on the hope that people are going to turn up. And if people can't turn up, then they've got to take that literally out of their pocket. So that's probably historically why I would say I'm assuming it's the same these days it has been in years gone by. That's where the gate money would effectively be the way that the club would get the money back for the paying of the riders' prize money.
It'd be interesting to see, like, if that MX Nationals runs golden.
Yeah,
there's no reason why all other.
Like if the regular British Championship doesn't run this year, the person who wins MX1 and MX2 there are going to be considered British champions, really, aren't they? If they're racing against everyone, that would be at the Maxis events there.
I think the only thing is like they clash with GPs, don't they? So you won't have like Neil's team or.
Yeah, but Neil said that they have to run at the MX Nationals. That's what he said.
Yeah,
he said on this show
British
before.
Championship.
Yeah, but
No, he has to. They have to race in.
Oh right. I
yeah,
thought he
yeah,
just.
because
Correct
of
me if I'm getting
primary
this wrong,
sponsors,
Neil.
aren't they? You know, race
Because
effects
Husker
is
UK,
there.
they're Husker UK backed.
Yeah.
If there's a clash between
Oh right.
a British, like a race in England that they're
or
GPs,
They do
Husker
the English
UK
races.
wants them to do here.
Be interesting to see how it all, obviously, like, it would be nice for, like, the riders, first of all, to get something out of the work they've put in. You know, all the sponsors have already invested bikes, kit, product, time, like, at least, hopefully, if you can get at least 2 or 3 months out of it, if they can get 6 or 7 races at least, and also for deals for next year, like, people can earn their deal for next year off of those 6 or 7 races, where at the minute, everyone's just guessing, like, no one's really put themselves in the market window, or... like I see there's been a few signings already, but it's a tough time, dude. Hopefully the guys get some racing to actually earn their rides. And
I think the odd thing's going to be if there is the scenario with regional lockdowns and so forth. You can just imagine how somebody's going to have to man up and get a bit old school and be a bit tough on the job. That if you end up you're leading a championship and then say, for instance, you're from Bristol and then Bristol goes into lockdown. Yeah. Everybody else is going to go racing and you can't come because you're from
you're just gonna have to suck
lockdown
it
area. You're going to
suck
have to
up.
suck up and take that, and that's going to be a toughie. If you've got all your investing, everybody you've been out, you've bought your bikes, you've done all your bits and pieces for this 5-round championship.
Sure if it's a lockdown or not, you had the racing.
You're going to have yourself a bit of a hoodie.
You're at the racing.
You're going out the back door out of Bedford or wherever. Yeah.
Right. Anyway, let's move on to the other 2 headlines. Let's kind of like combine them into one. So last time we was on the show we was talking about the Nationals. They're postponed indefinitely. We didn't think they was going to go racing at all. And last week they come out with a 9-round schedule. I think they're starting at Loretta Lynn's. They've never been there before. They're doing, I think, 2 rounds at Red Bud, if I'm right.
Yeah, that's it.
So they're completely changed up the way they're going to do it. And I think I saw David Coombs say that some races they might have crowds, some they won't. But they're going racing.
Do you know why they're going racing?
Do I know why?
Yeah.
Do you know why?
Yeah.
Go on then.
Because they want to.
Because they want to. Because they're Americans.
The organisers want to go race.
Yeah. They've been
That's
working
the same
hard.
as the MX Nationals crew want to go and race this year.
Yeah.
Because
they
wants to
even,
go and race this year.
when
They
it
take,
first-
isn't it? Pretty much. That's what I personally, I might be completely wrong. I'll probably get told if I am. But I personally think that's what it comes down to.
You-
Like, if you want the stress and you really want to run a series, you'll take the chance on it. And if it's easier to just say, that's it, done till next year,
Yeah.
that's what they'll
Because
do.
I thought when they did that last announcement, before the last show we did, I thought for sure they're not
Yeah.
going to
I
bother
also
trying to
thought
run
that,
it.
like, when you said to me about what was going on and stuff with what happened
Because
at the
they're-
Supercross.
Like, America's in a worse state than we are at the moment with spikes and stuff in certain areas. It's
And it sounds like, they're going to take a big knock if there's no spectators. Obviously with the amount of spectators that they get watching the National, that's a big knock they're going to take, and they still put out dates. It's the same as the Supercross. Obviously they took a massive knock on the fans not doing that. Still managed to run like a series, Motocross again. They're going to take a big knock, but they're willing to take the knock to put some racing on for people,
and obviously they've what was first, I don't know if it was Team USA deciding no, we're not going to send a team to the nations, and then they put the date in there, or if the date came first and then they was like, yeah, just do it because we're not going to go anyway, kind of thing. But I know the Motocross of Nations is still a question mark on it. We thinking like, is it possible? But say if it did run and Team USA aren't there, do you think that has a big effect on the event? Interest-wise and racing-wise?
Because it's almost going back to like a GP then, isn't it?
Yeah.
And for sure, like, you got to think about, same sort of thing as the racing we just talked about. Like, at any time, England can go back into lockdown, So when you're trying to plan for something like that, when you're taking a whole team of American people to England to come and race, it's not just one or two riders, it's a rider and probably 5 or 6 people with him. And the expense involved, the time involved, the planning involved, and then it could just, America could go into lockdown again, England could go into lockdown again.
Well, I think the Americans are still blocked from coming to Europe. I believe.
It just doesn't. It's the same. I think you'd find all the, or not all of them, but I'd say most of the, flyaway countries, overseas countries aren't going to be. It'll be more like a GP, but it is what it is, Like whoever's at that race is going to, if it goes ahead,
especially because it's in the middle of the GP season as well.
Yeah, and it's going to count as a GP, isn't it?
Is it?
The points are counting towards the GP series.
So it's definitely going to be the strangest of
It's a
exhibitions.
really random way of doing it. That would be to include the points in for that.
It is.
No,
the points are. The points at that race are.
I wouldn't want to be the one working out the points for that, for sure.
I think it'd be really. I think that a lot of people are becoming a lot of the teams and riders are becoming because of manufacturer pressure. I don't think that most team managers sitting down thinking, "Oh, that's a good idea," really.
Yeah. For sure. But
we all want to go racing. We want to see it. If we can do it and everybody stays safe, then all the good. The sooner we can go safely racing, then good. But
it's just
we'll see.
It's just all up in the air, isn't it? It's out of anyone's control. Like we said in the previous show, like it's not in anyone's control. Like this virus is what it is. Like no one's got control of it. No one can. It's never happened before. We just don't know what's going to happen. So it's hard for anyone to plan anything. But like while stuff is going ahead now, and you've got a bit of racing to do, make the most of it, isn't it? Really.
Like what's the saying? Make hay while the sun shines.
Exactly.
Did I get that right? You're from out in the sticks.
I'm not, but yes.
Right, so let's end up Petrol Headlines there. For some reason, I think every time we go into that, we talk about coronavirus. So let's move on to the final segment of tonight's show. That's Beleivabull. Right, so to finish out the show this week, like I said, we're not going to do the old favourite dirt brains. I'm going to give my wheel a little bit of a rest this week. While Neil's in hiding as well. Roland wanted to do some revision before he came to do Dirt Brains. So instead we're going to do the other game that we came up with.
We should do it one day.
Yeah, but someone has to write the questions, because currently I write the questions and I know the answers. But I reckon that'd be a good matchup,
I reckon
I'd be alright in this.
I could do 3 technical questions. One of them's rubbish and you've got to see.
I wouldn't be good at that one. Yeah, I reckon that's the thing. We'll get Phil in the booth to write some questions one day, and we'll go me and you, and Neil can answer questions when he's back.
How cheap can you get?
Yeah.
Right, so Beleivabull then is the other game that we came up with a couple of episodes ago, but slightly changed the rules for this. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you guys 3 unbelievable facts. 2 are completely true, and 1 is a lie. Your guys' job is to sniff out the one that doesn't smell quite right. Now we're going to have a competition, so we'll have 3 rounds, and if you guess right, you get a point. If you guess right, you get a point. So at the end of 3 rounds, winner takes all.
So you're gonna ask each person individually?
No, I'll ask you to the room, and then you can decide the same or you can decide different.
Okay, right.
It's up to you. So round number 1 then. Australian Supercross star Chad Reed was actually born in Newcastle. That's fact 1. Fact 2. Teenager Danger Boy Deegan has more followers on Instagram than 4-time world champion Jeffrey Hurlins and 3-time world champion Tim Geiser combined. And fact number 3. A 1970 Husqvarna 400 once sold for over $230,000. Which one of those do you think is bullcrap? What are you saying?
I don't think Chad Reed was born in Newcastle.
I reckon that the false one is the Danger Boy Deegan one.
So is that your final answers?
Yep.
Okay, so Chad Reed was born in Newcastle, Australia.
Yeah.
That's a fact. So 0 points on the board for Roland.
Trick question.
In 2018, Steve McQueen's bike that he rode in on any Sunday, Husky 400, reportedly sold for over $230,000.
Yeah, that's where I thought that'd come from.
Which means, Nev, you were right.
Yeah.
Danger Boy Deegan has, by my count today, 714,000 Instagram followers.
Yeah.
And combined, Hurlins and Geiser, with their 7 world championships between them, combined they have 719,000. So there's that much in it. And they've got 7 more world championships in that kid.
Quite a few. I thought he had a million.
He doesn't have that much compared to... Because he doesn't work
anyone?
it, I don't think.
Does he follow anyone or not?
I think he follows a few more people now, because before he just followed Justin Bieber or something, didn't he?
Oh, right, he used to have 0 followers.
But that's crazy, isn't it? Like it's some kid.
But that's the internet now. When you're like a YouTuber, and you know, he's putting out 3 or 4 videos a week. He's got the whole kids market on him, you know, and that's pretty much what that. Especially now during coronavirus, when the kids aren't at school, that's pretty much what they do most of the time, man.
Like I reckon he'd be a more valuable asset for a sponsor than 90% of pro racers.
Massively,
like in what he can give back to sponsors.
Except for the major guys, like
the Rocks
for
of
sure,
the
like
world
he's
and
better than
Cincerillos.
or he's worth more than like the 10th place.
For sure,
guy in
like
most
in
championships.
exposure, 100%.
Yeah, 100%.
That's right. That's one to Nev, 0 to Roland. Round number 2. Fact number 1. A sticker spot on Ricky Carmichael's helmet for the 2005 season would cost you about $300,000. Fact number 2. Aussie daredevil Robbie Madison has played James Bond on the big screen. And fact number 3. A 450 Supercross main event win in 2020 will net you a cool $25,000. What are you saying? Which one of those
What
is
is the first one again? Sorry.
a sticker spot, so like a sponsor spot on Carmichael's helmet?
I'm gonna go. That's false.
What are you saying, Roland?
I agree with him.
So you reckon that's false? Okay, so this is according to a Dirt Rider article that I found that was published online in 2011. I think it's derived from a much older article from like 2005. According to that article, it'll cost you about 300 grand to be on his helmet.
Wow.
Because of all of like, the magazine spots he had and
Yeah.
exposure he was getting.
Wow.
Big bucks back in those days.
So
So don't. If that's not true, that's not my fact. I read it. I found it online. Robbie Madison has played James Bond.
Yeah, I thought
He was due at the start of Skyfall, the bike scene in Turkey or wherever they were.
Yeah.
That's Robbie Madison.
Right.
He also doubled for Vin Diesel in Triple X3.
Yeah, I know he's done quite a bit of it.
So the false fact is you don't get 25 grand for a Supercross main event win.
But you get a lot more than that, yeah.
No.
No, the purse for a main event win, 12,000 bucks.
I knew it was about somewhere around there.
And if you come last place in the 450 LCQ, so if you get into the night show, we don't qualify for the main event, get 1,070.
That's still more if you win the British Championship, isn't it?
But you reckon you deserve more for a main event win? Like
Yeah.
from purse.
Yeah, definitely.
They reckon this is from a SWAT Moto article.
Yeah, but
They reckon-
like that, like you think about the bonus.
Yeah, he reckons that that's the purse money you get from Feld.
From Feld, yeah.
He reckons if you win a main event on your factory team, probably about 100 grand.
Yeah.
So it's not too shabby, is
Yeah,
it?
115. What is the 125?
112.
112, yeah, that's right for nice.
Yeah.
What was it, 30 minutes work?
Yeah,
a little,
total.
there's a little bit done in the background for that.
Yeah.
Right, so
I thought you just show up and ride.
Yeah, just rock up.
Sit in a motorbike and twist the throttle. That's what I
that's
heard.
if your name's Christophe Porcel, you can do that.
That's what I heard.
Well, for the first mate.
Do you know,
Yeah.
saying that, Stephen Clark told me something, and I don't know how true it is. Might be true, I hope it is true. He said when he was in America and Porcel was riding for Pro Circuit, he used to not even put tear-offs on his goggles.
Well, because he was just expected
He
to.
just used to wipe with his hands in the outdoors. He literally didn't even run tear-offs.
He was a special case. He
How
was,
cool
wasn't
is that? You know, like when you say, yeah, I'm not even going to wear body armor this motor because I'm going to hold shot.
Yeah.
He didn't even have tear-offs on his goggles against 40 of the best guys in the world, man. Cool.
he was
I like
special.
that.
He's a special rider. Right.
I like
So
that
round
style.
number 3, it's all to pay for. 1-0 to Nev. You got to tie this up, or I don't know what we do if it's a tie because I don't have any more to ask you. Right. So round number 3, fact 1. This is from the same article about Ricky Carmichael, by the way. Ricky Carmichael's
This guy's lying. This article, he's telling lies.
Ricky Carmichael's
Isn't
Suzuki
it?
contract for the 2005 season was worth over $5 million.
Ah, no chance.
Fact number 2. Hollywood A-lister Matthew McConaughey read the eulogy at Evel Knievel's funeral. And fact number 3. Multi-time AMA Supercross and Motocross champion Ryan Dungey is one of the sport's greatest racers. Only has one Loretta Lynn's amateur title to his name. What are you saying? Which one
Jeez,
is
I'm gonna
all
s-
crap?
I want to say the false one, Carmichael again, dude.
I think it's the middle one.
You think it's
McConaughey.
McConaughey?
Yeah.
All right. No, he read the eulogy at Evel Knievel's funeral. A lot of celebrities love Evel Knievel.
Dungey won one Literary Lens in the B class.
Darenghi won in the B class,
So,
which is crazy because became one of the greatest champions ever.
Mm.
So you're right. Ricky Carmichael's contract was not worth,
2
according to
million.
this Dirt Rider article,
2 million.
4.7 million.
Hey! I
According
thought
to
it was
this-
like 2
according-
million. I thought
According
like
to
2
this article
million.
that I
No.
found,
What, from Suzuki or with everything combined?
so according to this article that I found, Honda were paying him 2 million.
Yeah, that's kind of like
And
what
then
the best cars we get, isn't it? Like a
2 million and then bonuses on top.
Yeah.
The deal that he had with Suzuki, according to this article, was 4.7 million in total up front. So he signed the contract and that was including bonuses. So basically what happened, if this article is correct, is he said to Honda, I'm going to win this and this year.
Yeah.
I want all of that in my contract up front.
Yeah.
And they was like, I don't know about that, Ricky.
Yeah,
I don't know if
wow.
you're going to win that much.
Yeah.
And then, so they pretty much bet against him. So he
Yeah.
went, all right.
Signed
Suzuki
the deal.
willing to pay that big bucks up front,
Yeah.
signed him, wrote on the dotted line, got his bonus money up front, went and won everything that he said he was going to win. So
What a man, eh? What a man.
don't bet against RC.
Stand by your word, bro.
Yeah,
I know-
but even DT, him back in the day, he always worked on the basis that you pay me for a win. So a different way of looking at it.
Yeah,
He said, don't really bother about you paying me for winning. And
Yeah.
100%, dude.
But that's like the
100%.
Yeah.
the
You need
confidence
that
of
motivation.
Carmichael, I
Yeah,
guess.
if I lose, you pay me very little. If I win everything, you pay me a lot.
Yeah,
And
I
that
think
was
that's
the way
the
he
best,
played it.
especially with like if I was running a team, that's how I'd run it. Give them like a wage that they can live off, and then say, right, you want to make money, you win races.
Yeah. So that's
Mm.
pretty much the opposite of what Carmichael sorted himself out. He's like,
Mm.
give me all the money first, and then I'll back it up. But
Mm.
I mean,
but
he
you
was
know,
in-
but at the
he
time he
was
did
at-
that deal. At
he
the
was
time he
already-
did that deal, he had already done a perfect season twice,
Twice,
maybe.
yeah.
So it's
So
not like
him going to say,
and you think
I'm gonna
like
win
him
it.
leaving Honda to Suzuki, how good that was for Suzuki's image, So you can see both sides. I just thought like now I would say I don't know the figures, but I wouldn't think there's many people on over 2 million. So
No.
and then that's
I
the
Back
think,
then-
I think
Fox
and
and all
you're
these-
not going to be anything like that kind of number unless you're regularly putting a bike on the podium. If you can regularly podium, then you're worth that. So there's a massive difference
You
between
go-
money
you-
for fifth place and money for
I got a few
constant
podiums at Portsmouth last year. You reckon the Honda guy will be pumped in that?
more international.
I'll tell him I will win every single motor. Just
But-
give me
but
my
you-
bonuses up front.
you
please.
go
That's
back-
all I'm asking for.
you go back to 2005, and you wouldn't bet against Ricky Carmichael not winning.
I don't know.
both
With
championships.
James Stewart. Jeez,
Yeah,
and
but-
Chad Reed indoors. It wasn't
So
a given.
apparently,
It wasn't a given.
reading this article,
Was it?
apparently that deal that Carmichael signed completely changed it for the rest
Yeah,
of the sport. Like
I saw the
his
thing he did with. Was it on the Whiskey Throttle show, or he
No,
went on
this
some
is-
show, and he
this
was
is-
honest about everything with the Honda thing. And he was pretty bummed on it, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Did you watch it?
I haven't watched it. This is a different article that I read. Apparently, him signing that deal kind of brought the whole sport up for the top 3 or 4 guys.
Yeah.
Were then able to earn a lot more because of what Ricky was pulling in,
Yeah.
and they kind of changed. He changed that, but then kind of 8th place down, still weren't earning any decent money. But
Wow, that's a lot of money to make. But he earned it, dude. That guy worked every single day of his life. He's got sweat on every single one of those 4.5.
Yeah.
No,
4.7.
4.67 million. He's got a little bit of sweat on every single
So
one of them.
basically, this article I was reading was saying like, was Ricky Carmichael the biggest bargain in motocross for say Suzuki? And the article was saying, yeah, he was. The kind of exposure he got and the how you knew he was going to get race wins and podiums paid off for what he's paying him. But then it also said like, no way was Suzuki selling 4.7 million
No way, man.
dollars worth of bikes off the back of that signing.
Absolutely not.
But
Well, you start doing the numbers and you take long to get to 4.7 million. What percentage of his profit is another thing. But I don't think you can underestimate the volume of bike sales. You look in the Kawasaki dealer book directory for the US. That is like a telephone book.
Yeah.
It is, and it's thousands of listings. And you'll go through it, and you'll have a few postcodes. And then when you get into the CAs, it will be the thick mint of the book. It is unbelievable how many dealers selling how many bikes
but
out there.
even if they
Quads
didn't,
and everything. Just
even if they
huge.
didn't sell $5 million worth of bikes off the back of signing,
I
Carmichael,
wouldn't have
it's,
thought that'd be a problem.
He brought
the brand
Suzuki
is the
back
brand
in, yeah,
identity
yeah.
that he gave them, the kind of respectability and everything.
Mind you, like they still won like outdoors with Albertine won an outdoor part since that. They still had good
That
riders,
was-
didn't they?
But he completely changed though, didn't I think?
Oh yeah, massively.
Like,
And he was
'cause-
like a 4-stroke,
Because
he was
Carmichael
like,
goes on there, and then people like Tedesco like, yeah, I'll sign for you, and
Yeah,
then they
yeah,
can bring in like Millsaps and push.
then when De Costa came on board as well, they
Yeah,
changed the
changed
game
it.
massively.
So that's another win for you then, Nev. How you're good at these
On a
games.
streak, eh?
You must be feeling
Good at
really
these games.
I want to get like a sign on and just get my bonus money straight up out of this little game. we
These
play.
games, yeah. You get it in Domino's, mate.
I've put on about 3 stones since
Yeah,
I've started
you
doing
started,
this
yeah.
pizza every night.
Yeah, you
And
win
Red
in
Bulls,
this,
like
but yeah.
half the Red Bulls.
Right, so that's going to wrap us up for this week's show. Then we've got one last thing to talk about. Me and Nev at the end of this year, we're doing a cool little trip to Paradise MX. We're doing a ride trip where you can come and join us at Paradise MX, which is a motocross holiday package facility company. They pick up your bikes from the UK, take them down there to Spain, the Alicante area, and you stay in their villa for a week and you go riding in all of the best tracks in the area in the sun. Me and Nev are going, so Nev's going to be providing riding coaching and tips on the track to help you lower your lap times. I'm going to be there with my team. We'll be providing all the guys that come on the trip with us with media content, so photos, videos, all that kind of stuff for you, so you can remember your trip for a lifetime. So we're going to play a little video to see out the show, but Nev, just how much are you looking forward to November, I think, is the date we're going.
Can't wait to go back out there. Like when we went out last year, it was probably one of the best trips I've ever done. Like I'd never met Martin and his family before, but what a cool place to be. The tracks are mega. Some really cool tracks with some big jumps. Like everything flows. You got the track to yourself, and just it's almost like it reminded me of being like a full-time rider. Like you get to the track, they put the easy up, they get the bikes out. You get a cooked breakfast, you get good dinner, you have a couple of beers at night time, looking at the photos after the riding, looking at your GoPro. It's just, it's like a dream trip really, like
It really
riding
is.
bikes, chilling out and just having a good time with some good people. It's, can't wait till November really.
We say it in the video, but it's like you treat like a factory rider when you're out there.
100%.
Literally, the food on its own is great.
Food.
But the food they give you, lunch, dinner, breakfast.
I'm going to my
Great.
beer tab on an old Phil's account this time.
Yeah.
I ain't paying for my beer.
What's in him for?
Nah, it is, like, food's good, hospitality's good, there's jacuzzi,
Riding's great,
sunshine, there's a track at the house, there's loads of tracks close to the house. Just, like, and you drop your bike off, your bike's there when you get there, and just you pick it up when you get home.
It's a great package. You can see all the content we got from there last year. Me and Nev went over there to do a week's worth of filming while it was raining at home, and it kind of inspired us to do this package trip that we're doing here. So we're really looking forward to get down there, watch those videos to see what kind of content you can expect if you join us, and obviously Nev will be there to help you on track as well. But we're really looking forward to that. in November. So check out Paradise MX on Facebook if you're interested in that. I've had too many Red Bulls, mate.
Vodka in that Red Bull,
Yeah, I've had too many Red Bulls, mate. So
There's vodka with your Red Bull.
that about wraps us up tonight then. Thanks for coming along, Roland. Thanks for
Pleasure.
sharing your two-stroke knowledge. Nev, as always, thanks for being here. Thanks for watching at home, guys. As always, my name is Max. This has been HANGTIME Live. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. We'll see you next time.
Pretty much like being a factory rider out there, you know, those guys take care of you, do everything they need to do, and it's so awesome to ride some nice dry tracks on your own bike also. Yeah, no, it's going to be awesome. We really plan to go back and just, you know, create something new for you guys. So we'll be doing training, so coaching with myself, and then also some good media content with the Toofast media guys.
Producing memories to last a lifetime. We'll be taking video, photos. We're going to be producing the memories for you. Nev's going to help you blow those lap times, and when it's cold, it's wet in England, there's nowhere better to be, is there? No, it's awesome. Like, just the depression from being back 1 week is pretty crazy, and there's no better holiday than a motocross riding holiday. Limited spaces. Check out the Paradise MX website and their Facebook page for costings and such things like that. Check it out. We'll see you there. See you there.